Welcome back to another episode of Stacking Dennys. I'm Jordan McAbee of RotoBaller. My co-host Nick Giffen of the Action Network. Shane van Gisbergen in victory lane at Watkins Glen, the favorite pre-race, the favorite after practice and qualifying. Another SVG win, another pretty much dominating effort from him, leading or winning by over 11 seconds at the Glen. In what most people were talking and saying was an absolutely horrible race. Not much passing. Typically what we've come to expect out of these road course races with this next gen car. And then you have the aspect of SVG just being on a completely different planet, being so much better than everybody else at this track type. And again, like I said last week, we have to respect when there's a dominating effort, but at the same time, for casual viewers and for a lot of NASCAR fans, they don't want to see that, especially, every single road course we go to, SVG and victory lane. But overall, I think Jeff Luck's poll got super low ratings, some of the lowest in the history of the poll. Nick, do you agree with that? Was it as bad as everybody is making it out to be?
Yeah, it was terrible. There was no passing basically in stage one when everybody was on equal tires. And you talked about how SVG was absolutely dominant. Well, he was, except in stage one, where he couldn't get by Ryan Blaney. And people are like, oh, well, he was toying with him. Well, no, he wasn't. You're not toying with the guy. You're not sitting there saying, I'd rather sit here in second. Maybe you go and get the lead and then you kind of just maintain your gap, maintain your tires. But there is no scenario in which you want to be running second outside of like a drafting race going into the last lap or something, And even then, often you want to have the lead in case the caution comes out. But like, there's no scenario where you're like, I'd rather be second.
Right.
It's not a fuel saving race, where you're trying to draft and save fuel or whatever. He wasn't toying with Ryan Blaney. And it was pretty clear because once he actually was ahead of Ryan Blaney, AKA start of stage two, he was gone. And here's the thing. Tires did matter. We saw when drivers had fresh tires versus drivers had old tires, you could pass. That was the only way you could pass. Anybody who was on equal tires, there was pretty much no way of passing. There was the Christopher Bell versus Chris Buescher pass at the end on the last lap. Even then, I'm pretty sure they were on slightly different tire ages.
Yes, they were.
So people are like, well, what if that was the pass for the win? What if SVG wasn't in the race? Yeah, the poll probably would have been a bit higher, but it still wouldn't have changed the fact that you could only pass if there was a tire differential for the most part, unless you were just so clearly better and you'd been working on the car for several laps or they made a mistake or something. But it was a bad race. There's no way about it. This car sucks at road courses. This car sucks at short flat tracks. This car sucks in super speedways. The only place it's good is intermediates, and even the intermediate races haven't been as good as years past. Like, think about Kansas, where we had some of the most awesome, just like banger races in 2022, 2023, even the first Kansas race in 2024, and Kansas 2 last year, and the first Kansas race this year just weren't quite as good. So as teams and drivers are starting to figure this car out, it's not even as good in the intermediate tracks anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and of course, the Kyle Petty's and people like that are going to come out and they're saying, oh, this is phenomenal racing. You guys don't know what you're talking about. But the fact of the matter is that not everybody, but a vast majority of fans, both casual and diehard, are saying that this product sucks. It's not good. And, it's more than just, a few races, like a bad race streak. Like, I feel like the majority of races this season, we've been down here talking about the exact same thing, how, this car is just not up to snuff. Yeah. Whatever I'm trying to say there. But yeah, you mentioned Christopher Bell and Chris Buescher battling out there on the last lap. They finished 2 and 3. William Byron came home 4th, Chase Briscoe 5th. Ryan Blaney, who won the pole, surprisingly, ahead of SVG, on Saturday, he ended up 6th. Daniel Suarez, Bubba Wallace, Tyler Reddick, and Ross Chastain rounded out the top 10. Another road course race where Tyler Reddick struggled a little bit. He qualified 21st. He really wasn't that great in the race. Obviously, he ended up 9th, so it's a decent finish for him. But I do think that that's a little noteworthy that, once again, he was not that awesome. And I don't know what happened to, Michael McDowell but he ended up finishing 19th. Him and his teammate Carson Hocevar got into it on the last lap. And McDowell really wasn't a factor for much of the race. Chase Elliott, that team just completely missed it. He used to be unstoppable at Watkins Glen. They just completely missed it. His first finish outside of, like, I think the top 20 this season, he ended up 26th. And then, yeah, Kyle Larson, you know, with his brake problems, I think in the first 3 laps, he ended up with brake problems, went to the garage. Did that thing again where second time this year where he went to the garage, they fixed the car, and then he went out and posted the fastest lap once he got back on the track and got that bonus point. So I don't know if it was intentional or not. Definitely, you know, like the last time he did it, it was pretty much intentional. They were trying to do that, but definitely ruined a bunch of DFS lineups early on Sunday with Kyle Larson bowing out with his mechanical issues.
Yeah, it was an interesting race. A lot of big names, like you said, road course potential good road course drivers having issues. Reddick, you know, he finished 9th, but it wasn't a vintage Tyler Reddick at a road course performance. You mentioned Chase Elliott. I feel like he was fast. He just never had the right strategy, never had the right track position. Remember, he stayed out at the end of stage 1 and then was on old tires, and everybody just passed him, and then they kind of aborted that strategy. So another Alan Gustafson masterclass there of just horrendous strategy. You know, I think Elliott would have been better had he been on proper strategy, proper tires throughout the race, because Elliott was really good in flags. And I'll say this, the drivers that were good in flags, William Byron, Chase Elliott, you know, SVG, they all did really well. And then some drivers didn't do really well. Justin Haley, he looked awesome in first practice, you know, group one practice, best 10, 15, 20, whatever lap averages. Not very good in the race. And, you know, I mean, he was ahead of SVG in practice, in every metric and running laps and everything like that. So it's tough because we don't get super long runs in practice. And I do think the big thing with SVG, and we saw in the final stage, if you look at some of the graphs, is just his ability to maintain his tires over the course of a long run. He is so much better on the long run than other drivers that, yeah, maybe they can match up with him for the first 5 or 10, 15 laps of a run. But a 25-lap run at Watkins Glen, they cannot keep up with him those last 10 laps or 15 laps of that, you know, the second half of that tire run. And we don't get to see that in practice. So that's kind of the hard part of handicapping a tire run in practice for a road course. Now, this week we're going to Richmond, and I'm not trying to get ahead, but we'll see 40, 50 lap runs in practice. It still won't be an indicative of a 100 lap run, which you can do at Richmond, but you'll get a little bit more of an idea just because you have more laps, more data points rather than fewer data points on how things go. But, you know, something like practice flags has classically always been the best at intermediate tracks in the next gen era, simply because it's the perfect balance of, like, you get a large number of laps. You can run a 30 lap average in a 20-minute practice session, and the cars are spaced out enough because it's a big enough track to where you can get fewer laps interfered with from traffic and things like that. So I think, you know, practice data, we want to read into it because it's important, and it does matter at road courses. It does matter at short tracks, but they classically, practice data itself just fares best at intermediate tracks. And so I thought it was interesting how, you know, like you were just talking about with the Larsons, the Reddicks, et cetera, they all looked pretty good in practice. I mean, Larson wasn't amazing, but he looked pretty good in practice. If I pull up, you know, practice flags, it was Byron, Haley, Chastain, SVG, Bowman, Elliott, Larson were the top 7. So, you know, but then of those names, Haley struggled. Elliott had strategy issues. Larson had problems right off the bat. And then Austin Cindric was 8th, and he wasn't even that fast. He was just kind of meh. So tough for, you know, practice data for road courses this year.
Yeah. You did mention, what was I going to go? I completely lost my train of thought. Oh, that's annoying. That's annoying. Damn it.
Yeah, it is what it is.
Damn, I had a good point too. Oh no, SVG. You remember the days when, like, when Mark Martin was racing? you could always tell how fast Mark Martin's car was because he would be honest. You know, a lot of these guys, they're not honest when it comes to like how fast when they're asked how fast their car is. You know, they kind of just give the same generic answer every week.
Yeah.
Mark Martin was always honest. If he wasn't fast, he'd tell you. If he was super fast, he'd tell you. I've learned that with SVG. You have to listen to what he says after practice, and what he said after practice at Watkins Glen was that he was happy with the car and it was fast. And when he says that, you just know that he is beyond light years better than everybody else. Because, you know, at COTA, he said that they were struggling and, you know, they didn't have the best car at COTA. He said they were struggling at Mexico just a little bit. And he didn't, he ended up having the best car, like you said, over the long run. But at the beginning, he did not have the best car. So, yeah, with SVG, I think you obviously you have to look at practice data. But when it comes to just what he says, if he says that they have a good car, I don't think anybody can beat him outside of, you know, a slow pit stop, an issue on pit road, or a mechanical failure, because he's certainly not going to make any mistakes. It's wildly impressive to see what that guy is doing. You know, I mean, right now, obviously it's going to change when the regular season ends here, but he's second in the playoff points behind Denny Hamlin. Like, it's crazy, and he could still get another win, and probably will at the Charlotte Roval in the playoffs. So, I think it's fun to see a guy like that come in and hopefully, you know, over the next couple of years, elevate the competitiveness of other drivers, because, you know, like Christopher Bell won it at COTA. It's not like SVG is entirely unbeatable, but I think it will, in the end, make everybody a better road course racer. Speaking of improvement on road course, like I said, Bubba Wallace ended up 8th. You know, he used to be, you pencil him in for a 30th place finish every time you go to a road course. All of a sudden, he's becoming a top 10 threat. So it was good to see, you know, some of these other guys also do well at the Glen.
I mean, Bubba Wallace he's come into his own in general. Last 4 races, 7th, 1st, 6th, and 8th. Yeah, he you know, had a 4-race streak there at Pocono, Atlanta, Chicago, and Sonoma where things didn't go his way, but he was really good at Pocono. That was when the whole 2311 team had brake issues. Atlanta's Atlanta. Chicago street course, he had a DNF there, getting, I think, caught up with Alex Bowman in a pissing contest when they actually could have had some good results. And Sonoma's not really ever been a great track for him. But you look back to Mexico City, finished 12th. And then Michigan 4th, Nashville 6th. And then 3 DNFs before that, but then an 8th, right? Like, if he doesn't have issues, he's perennially a top 10 or 12 contender, it seems like, aside from Sonoma, which has never been a good track for him. So Bubba Wallace, I mean, we're talking about a guy that legitimately could make the championship 4. There's not really any bad tracks for him in the playoffs. There may be some, like, not great ones, but there aren't any genuinely bad tracks for him, because I don't think he's genuinely bad anywhere anymore, except for maybe like a Sonoma.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you look at his results this year, he's sitting 11th in the points now. He has 10 top 10 finishes, which is more than Tyler Reddick, more than last year's champion Joey Logano, more than Kyle Busch. Like, that car has speed, and you know, if they get out of their own way and stop shooting themselves in the foot sometimes, yeah, I agree with you. He can definitely go on a run, and we're seeing it, you know, once again. I think he'll be really strong this weekend at Richmond as well. Yeah.
And the only other thing is, I mean, we talked about how good SVG was, but his teammates were good too. Ross Chastain, really fast in flags, had a great car in the race, got a little bit off on strategy, but very fast. And Daniel Suarez ended up finishing 7th. It's just a bummer we didn't get to see the 4th Trackhouse car of Connor Zilisch after taking that fall after winning the Xfinity race, breaking his collarbone. But I'm glad all it is a broken clavicle and not anything worse, because that looked scary as heck when that first happened.
Yeah, it was. I was at work at the time, and you texted me, and just kind of briefly went over what happened, and then I saw the video, and I was like, "Holy shit!" Like, at least he was a good, like, he was able to laugh it off, and, you know, I mean, it sucks. But could you tell when SVG got out of his car, he was definitely careful the way that he stood on his car and got up there. I'm sure he didn't want to try to repeat
I didn't even notice.
thing.
I wasn't paying attention to that, but yeah, makes sense. And NASCAR today said they're not going to curb any celebrations. One thing they will do is make sure the window net is properly tucked inside the car before drivers start to climb up on the car.
Mm-hmm. I haven't heard. Have you heard any timeline of how long Zelish is going to be out? Because I mean, he has several wins in the Xfinity Series this year.
I don't know, but Xfinity is off this week, so that definitely helps. And so somebody else, I think it was SVG himself. Somebody said they drove with a broken collarbone, and they had a week off as well between, and then they drove 2 weeks later. I think it was SVG. And they said, what did it take? And I was like, a lot of drugs, a lot, painkiller type drugs, not anything that's like illegal or anything that NASCAR would not approve you for, but more like pain injection type stuff. Potentially
Hosfar, drugs.
Potentially, no Jeremy Mayfield drugs. Potentially Hosfar might not even have to miss a race, or not Hosfar, Zilic might not have to miss a race. But even if he does, I'm sure he'll get a waiver because it's an injury, and you get injury waivers, and those are the waivers where you can still keep your playoff points as well. So we'll have to see if he just takes the rest of the regular season off and applies for a waiver, or if they'll try to make him get into the car, because he is also in the fight he's leading the regular season, points in Xfinity right now as well. And that would be a huge help to his championship chances if he was to win the regular season, and get those extra playoff points.
Speaking of Xfinity Series, Austin Hill involved in another wreck, not as egregious as Indianapolis, but still a pretty big pile up there. That
we talked about it, man. Watkins Glen gets some major wrecks for a road course.
Yeah, it's because it's so tight, and you get one car there that takes up the whole track, and boom, you're piling up. But
I mean, this wasn't the case of him intentionally wrecking anybody or anything. He was just trying to stay on the outside of McDowell and keep that spot, and got loose off the turn, just pushed it too hard, and you could see the back end step out. It wasn't absolutely anything that was intentional. He didn't steer right. He just lost the car and tried to correct it, but was too close to McDowell's rear quarter panel there and hooked him, and unfortunately triggered a huge melee. But at this point, it's kind of like where Ross was in 2002 or so, where he's not getting the benefit of any doubt at this point.
Nope.
But I 100% believe that was just a product of hard racing.
Did you notice that he is no longer wearing his typical white gloves? Nothing says you're a dirtbag quite like changing the gloves after you get caught.
Yep.
But wrapping up Watkins Glen a little bit, obviously, we do Chris Buescher, Alex Bowman, guys on the bubble. We're going to have the strategies that they did. Buescher had a really good points day, 44 points. He is now 34 points to the good on the bubble. Obviously, that can move and change if we get a new winner here at Richmond this week, or at Daytona next week. Bowman 60 points to the good, Reddick 117. But yeah, another strong race for Chris Buescher. Obviously, we know how good he is at the road courses. That team did what they had to do to get those points, compared to his teammate Priest, who ended up finishing 13th, got 33 points. So Buescher gained 11 points on him in this last week.
Yep. All three of those guys, though, whether it's Buescher, Bowman, or Priest, kind of did the job they needed to do at the Glen. They all ended up within 10 points of each other. Bowman finished 20th. He still grabbed 30 points thanks to stage points. And Buescher got 44 thanks to stage points and a third-place finish. And Priest got 33, so 3 more than Bowman. So they all kind of did what they needed to do. Bowman has never been super great at the Glen, so it was good for him to grab those stage points and finish 20th. I mean, if he got no stage points and finished 20th, he would have had 17 points. But instead, he got 13 stage points and walks away with 30 points, only losing 3 to Priest and only losing 14 to Buescher and staying ahead of Buescher in the standings. It's going to take 2 new winners, and I think it would. It's certainly possible, but it's going to take 2 new winners, or I should say, not or 1 new winner plus falling behind Buescher in the standings for Bowman to miss the playoffs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So as we're wrapping up this regular season, probably unlikely, but still possible. It definitely wouldn't be out of this world to see someone like Austin Dillon win this race on Saturday night at Richmond.
I think there's like 5 or 6 guys that could win this race that are outside the cut line.
Yeah. So yeah, definitely possible. Anything else from you for Watkins Glen before we dig into these standings?
No, other than shout outs to Cody Ware. He won the shitbox group. I thought it was going to be Catherine Legg, and Cody Ware won the shitbox group. So there it is.
There we go. Cody Ware. He also had a 10th place finish in stage 1. Staying out there.
That's right. Yeah, stayed out the whole time and was able to hold off. I think it was Ross for the final spot there in stage 1.
Mm-hmm. Shifting to the standings, William Byron now with a 42-point lead in the regular season point standings. Obviously expect him to be strong at Richmond, and it looks like, I'm going to guess he's probably going to win the regular season points title, but Chase Elliott is within 42 points. Hamlin moves up to third in the regular season point standings, 81 points behind. Christopher Bell moves up to fourth, 85 points behind, tied with Kyle Larson, who's also 85 points behind. Busher jumps into the top 10 in points. Let's see here. Yeah, and then the bubble, like I said, Busher's 34 to the good. Alex Bowman 60, Reddick plus 117. Reddick, I think Bob Hopper's tweeted out the amount of points he needs to be up on the bubble after Richmond to be locked in. It is very possible that he will get there this weekend. Priest 34 back, and then everyone else is over 100 points behind. So likely going to need a win. But like you said, we could see several of these drivers that are on the outside looking in this weekend potentially challenge for a win.
Yeah, I think there's several of them. Right off the bat, Ryan Priest is outside looking in, and we know he's great at short flats. RFK has been really good at Richmond in the Next Gen era with a win with Busher. That same race that Busher actually won at Richmond, Brad Keselowski led the most laps. So, certainly RFK has been strong, and this is a great track type for Priest. And he, finished 5th at Iowa. It was a lot based off strategy, but then Brad Keselowski had the best car at Iowa, another RFK car, and certainly he could win here at Richmond. So that's 2 right there. Austin Dillon won this race last year, got encumbered, if you will, for being a total dirtbag like Austin Hill and intentionally wrecking people. So there's 3 that could win this, but I think his teammate Kyle Busch could win this. They were using different setups last year, Austin Dillon and Kyle Busch, hoping one of the 2 would work, and it did. So now if they use Austin Dillon set up on Kyle Busch, this has been one of Kyle Busch's historically great tracks. So there's 4 drivers right there. I wouldn't be surprised to see Carson Hocevar win this race. He's won here in the Truck Series. He's finished top 10 here last year in the Cup Series in the second race. And he had a top 5 or 6 car at Iowa, obviously with all the fuel stuff at the end and things like that. He didn't quite have the track position he needed and finished 8th. But, Carson Hocevar makes it 5. Could Ty Gibbs challenge, potentially a 6th? I think there's 5 to 6 drivers that legitimately have a shot to win this race that aren't even inside the cut line for this race.
Yeah, you mentioned Ty Gibbs there. Now, obviously, Joe Gibbs Racing at Richmond Raceway is just head and above everybody else. So definitely could see some speed out at 50 car this weekend. Did you hear the radio communication between Ty Gibbs and his spotter at Watkins Glen? It seemed like there was some contention, maybe some frustration there between the 2. Kind of surprising to see that.
Yeah, I mean, desperate times can create just, desperation and frustration if it's not going the way you want. So I think that's just a product of where they are in points and in the standings and the year they've had in general.
But yeah, should be a great final 2 races for this regular season.
I want to go back to that battle for the lead because you mentioned it right off the bat with the regular season point standings. If Byron and Elliott do kind of hold their position at Richmond, we're in a weird scenario where Byron may want to just clinch and could almost not race at Daytona. You know what I mean? Just wait for the chaos to happen and hang back. And,
right.
There could be like, okay, try hard in stage 1 and 2 and get stage points and lock yourselves in. Then you can race hard. But if you're not able to do that for whatever reason, and you need a 32nd place finish or whatever to clinch, and we know this race is going to be just mad chaos with everybody trying to qualify their way in. It's chaos every year like that. there's a scenario where Byron may just be like a total DFS fade for Daytona. I don't want to get ahead of ourselves here, but I did want to touch on that while we're talking about the regular season points battle, because I think that's kind of something to think about ahead of time to prepare ourselves for, as far as like betting and DFS for Daytona.
Right. Yeah. It's not like we haven't seen, the point standings and everything else have a major effect on the strategies of the races. I mean, we see it with the stages at road courses, and just over this last month or so, guys are trying to position themselves best strategy wise to do certain things. And yeah, I mean, winning the regular season point standings comes with 15 playoff points. So that is definitely, outside of winning, this weekend and next weekend, potentially next weekend, but definitely this weekend, that is at the top of the mind for that 24 team. That's the only thing that they are focusing on, is winning this regular season points championship.
Yeah. And so, we saw it in the playoffs 2 years ago, where Logano and Truex just took it easy. I think it was at Talladega, in the Talladega playoff race, just to make sure, they're 40, 50 points up on the cut line, make sure they don't lose that advantage. So they're willing to sacrifice 10 or 20 points to be good in terms of the cut line. Well, we could see that here, where William Byron, if he's able to clinch by finishing 32nd, and if he finishes 32nd and Elliott wins, he still is the regular season title, then why risk finishing 33rd or worse? Because then it would be a huge swing. Elliott would win and get 5 playoff points for that, and he would win the regular season and get 5 playoff points versus where he is now, and you'd lose 5 playoff points. Like, that's a 15-point swing to your teammate right there, to crash out and have him win, Daytona. So you need to make sure you're in a position where you minimize that to just a 5-point swing if Elliott were to win. You know what I'm saying? Especially because you're already 11 points to the good on him. You're going to gain 5 on him. He'll gain 5 on you. In terms of playoff points, and it's a wash. You'll be going 11 points ahead of Elliott into the playoffs.
Mm-hmm. Another noteworthy thing to look at with these point standings is the Hamlin-Bell-Larson battle. I mean, they're within 4 points of each other, and that's a few more points, playoff points going on there. We could see Ryan Blaney.
Absolutely. Tyler Reddick could even sneak in.
Yeah. Now, obviously, Richmond hasn't been that great of a track for Blaney, but he's been improving at it for sure.
Same with Reddick. Both of those guys are a little bit of a disadvantage, both in points and in the current track we're heading to. But we've seen crazier things happen. Both of these guys are improving at Richmond, so it wouldn't surprise me if one of them has a top 5 run.
Mm-hmm. And then Briscoe's sitting there in 8th, and yeah, I talked about it last week. I don't think enough people are talking about Chase Briscoe as a championship contender. He's now up to 10 top 5s on the year, which is more than William Byron, more than Chase Elliott, more than Christopher Bell, more than Ryan Blaney. Only 3 drivers have double-digit top 5s this year. It's Chase Briscoe, Kyle Larson, and Denny Hamlin. And, that team is finding his groove. Now, Briscoe, historically, not good at Richmond. What Chase Briscoe is going to show up this weekend? My money would be on him being better than his normal self.
Yeah, I mean, Martin Truex Jr. was always great here. And we know what happened earlier this year when Chase Briscoe went to a Martin Truex Jr. track. He won, he finished second. He won the non-SVG battle, right, at Sonoma. And then he went to Dover, which was always a Martin Truex Jr. track. He finished second. So some of these Martin Truex Jr. tracks, he has been showing up even in cases where maybe those weren't his best tracks in the past. And Richmond's another Martin Truex Jr. track. So I think Chase Briscoe's in for another potential top 5 this weekend.
Absolutely. And the way he qualifies, Richmond's also a track position race. You definitely want to start up front. So, yeah. Anything else you have with these point standings before we shift fully into Richmond?
We mentioned Bowman and Buescher, Preece all potentially could still get in on points, but I think it's important that we note Bubba Wallace still could points race and get into that top 10 and earn an extra playoff point by getting ahead of Chris Buescher or Alex Bowman in the regular season standings. So, because that's based off the point standings themselves. So I think it's important to note that Bubba Wallace could still points race as well.
And one more race that I'm interested in following here these last 2 weeks of the regular season is Josh Berry is now 24th in points and SVG is now 25th. They're somewhat separated by 4 points. everybody talking SVG doesn't belong in the playoffs. I'm rooting for him to finish ahead of Barry in the regular season, just because it'd be funny to me.
I will say this. I think Josh Berry is more deserving than Shane van Gisbergen to be in the playoffs, and I think he was more deserving than Harrison Burton in that same car, because Burton won the Daytona race and was lower in points than Josh Berry, and Berry won a real race and was higher in points than Burton. And again, Burton had better oval finishes than SVG. Without these road courses, SVG is sitting in the 30s in points and is out of the playoffs. So I will still say I think SVG is the least deserving of the three of who should be in the playoffs, and it's only because he is a one-trick pony right now.
Yeah.
One finish better than 18th at a non-road course.
If anybody is looking for a reason to consider this playoff format a gimmick, this is definitely a big one. And even the people that back this format, it's hard to justify.
I like the format, and I can't justify this.
Yeah, SVG getting 22 playoff points to start out with, that's a big thing. That could, with the right circumstances, that could knock out a Kyle Larson from the first round if things would go awry, and that's definitely, where things wouldn't be good. But on to Richmond. Cookout 400 Saturday night race. We got back-to-back Saturday night races to close out this regular season. Now, obviously, everybody remembers Richmond last year, one of the most memorable finishes. Austin Dillon, clearly the best car in that race, was going on to win. We get a late caution. We get a late restart. Joey Logano just beats him on the restart, and Austin Dillon goes haywire, dumps Logano, dumps Hamlin, gets the win taken away, and his playoff eligibility taken away. Still gets the official credit for the win. But yeah, Richmond, 0.75 mile flat short track. Overall, if this car wasn't so bad, Richmond is a great racetrack, and it opens up the opportunities for different strategies to come about because guys can pit twice during the final pit cycle or just pit once. And we often see where the times, because of the new tires, because of the abrasiveness of the track and the tire fall off, these different strategies kind of depend on how good the driver is, and it can go either way. And I think Richmond's one of definitely, again, without this car, is one of my favorite racetracks on the circuit.
Yeah, it's pretty good. I think, again, this car has made it worse. I don't think it's good as it used to be, Richmond. The high tire wear makes it so there's passing and there's strategy in the stages, but there's very little contact. And the other thing about super high tire wear tracks is like the drivers are on such low grip, they're driving on eggshells that they're not on the ragged edge. So they make fewer spin out mistakes, or I got loose and I, wrecked it, or I got tight and I pushed up into this guy. Those kinds of things where you make those mistakes when you're on the arrow edge. So we don't see a lot of incident at Richmond, and Richmond is a pure how did you do on speed and strategy combination track, which is fine. I just don't think it's as exciting as it used to be. And I honestly don't think Richmond's one of my favorite tracks. I actually rank it maybe towards the middle or bottom of my track rankings, because I think it's become so much not an action track these days. And it's just pure manage your tires, get to your fuel window. Do you do 2 stops or 1 stop in stage 2 and in stage 3?
So yeah, that's definitely an aspect that we disagree on, but to each their own. And hopefully, I'm just hopeful that we get a good race this week after last week's dud at Watkins Glen. But the fact of the matter is, Richmond, there are certain guys that are really good here, and certain guys that typically always run up at the front. You look at Denny Hamlin's 15 of the last 18 races at this track, he's finished 6th or better. He's the favorite coming in this weekend. Always strong here. It's his home racetrack. He's really good at short flats. Just everything works out for him. Christopher Bell's another guy, 6th or better in 7 of the last 8 races at Richmond. Joey Logano, always really strong here. Kevin Harvick was always really strong here. Truex was always really strong here. And then we have guys like Ryan Blaney, Tyler Reddick. We mentioned them before. Not their best racetracks. Now, Logano, he tends to be overvalued in Richmond, and we love talking about Ryan Blaney at at Richmond, in previous years on this show, because he always looks so good in practice and then doesn't back it up in the race. Now, obviously, eventually it's going to catch up, and he's gonna figure this place out. But right now, he's still in that just above average rank at Richmond. I've been scouring the sports books, and I haven't had a ton of time to really look. But like last year, they had Logano versus Blaney. I think Logano was like even money, if I remember right, between the two. And if that happens again, I'm going to heavily bet it once again, because it's as ridiculous as getting Christopher Bell last week at Watkins Glen at even or plus money for a top 10 finish. It's just like, please make these mistakes again, and the majority of the time it's gonna work out. Now, obviously, Logano got wrecked last year, and Blaney did beat him, but Logano was ahead of Blaney for, I think, 99% of the laps in that race. That's how much better Logano is than Blaney at this track.
Like I said, the gap's closing. It's absolutely closing between these two, and you're not going to get Logano at plus money versus Blaney simply because Logano is priced shorter than Blaney in the outright market. So any head-to-heads will also have, Logano favored over Ryan Blaney. But like if we look at average running position, you mentioned Logano was ahead of Blaney for most of that race. But if we just look at Ryan Blaney for a second, average running position, he used to run 16, 17, 22, 15, 19. But lately it's been 12, 9, 4, 7. Then he had a few bad races, but 13, right? So like the second half of his career, he's been so much better at Richmond than the first half of his career. And we've seen, again, like Darlington, he's improved a lot at Darlington to where he's a race-winning contender at Darlington. I think he's going to get there at Richmond. We know how good he is at Iowa and Phoenix, and he just needs to apply what he's learned at Darlington to the style of track he's usually really good at. And he's so good at Martinsville, which is crazy because Martinsville has started to produce tire wear over the long run that I think he should be good at Richmond. Like, he's so good at everything that compares to Richmond that you want to think he's going to be good at Richmond and be good eventually at Richmond. And so I actually think the time to buy into Ryan Blaney is now.
You mentioned Martinsville. So they are using the same tire setup that was first introduced at Martinsville last November. It's also the option tire that was used here at Richmond last year on the right side. And then the left side tire is just slightly softer.
That's the same tire combination as the Bowman Gray race earlier this year.
Correct. Yes. And North.
You know who's really good there? Chase Elliott. So it'll be interesting.
You mentioned so you mentioned several guys, longish shots that have been good here. Another one we mentioned when we were talking earlier, Bubba Wallace has been good here at Richmond in the past. Has a 4th place finish last year. Finished top 8 in both stages in all of the last 3 races here. So definitely turning things up. I wouldn't be surprised if he was in contention for the win as well this weekend.
If who? Sorry, I was looking up the Bowman Gray results.
Bubba Wallace.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. I bet Bubba Wallace for top 10. Running hot. We started recording on Wednesday earlier instead of Wednesday late and releasing Thursday. So that's already out. I took Bubba Wallace for a top 10 finish. But yeah, I was say, you know, this was really good at Bowman Gray. It was Ryan Blaney. He started dead last in the heat and finished second. Or dead last in the main and finished second. So, this really could be a Ryan Blaney race. And I think, while his price is still longer than it could or should be, I think now is the time to buy into him. If you can get like 14 or 16 to 1 on him to win. I think he was that earlier this week at FanDuel. I think it was like 17 to 1. But if you see a 16 out there or maybe a 15 or a 14, if it pops back up through before we get to practice and qualifying, I honestly don't hate that on Ryan Blaney. But yeah, I'm high on Bubba Wallace this week. He's had a over 100 driver rating in each of the last 3 Richmond races. I expect him to be really good. And he was 5th at Bowman Gray on this tire combination.
Yeah. Definitely. If I'm not there on Blaney, he's still in the prove it to me mode for Richmond. And
I think he's proven it to me. I think he's proven
he just hasn't for me. I'm going to stay on the hill until I'm wrong. which
see, I'd rather. This is the spot where I'd rather buy into him than wait, because then you miss out.
Mm-hmm. And
so I've waited. Finally, I am in on Ryan. This is the first time I've ever been on Ryan Blaney, like in on him as far as like there could be value on him heading into Richmond. So at some point, you can't just wait for it to happen because then you're going to miss it.
It's going to happen. Yeah. It's Bubba Wallace at road courses. Same thing.
Yeah. Or Bubba Wallace at Indy.
Right. Yeah. As far as, let me see here. I lost my train of thought once again. Man, I'm doing that a lot today, aren't I? Shit. So yeah, tires, same as Bowman Gray, like you said. Blaney was good in that race. SPG was actually decent in that race, finished ninth. And I want to think that he, like earlier in the race, he was better than he was late in the race. So something to keep an eye on there. North Wilkesboro also using this same tire combination. Christopher Bell won there. Joey Logano led the most laps in that race. Chastain was strong. Bowman was strong. Chase Elliott again was strong in that race, as was William Byron. Let's see. We talked a little bit about Austin Dillon, Bubba Wallace. I think Corey Hines in this race, isn't he?
Yes.
Looking at some. Yeah, Corey Hines in the 67 this week. Jesse Love's in the 33. The 44 is withdrawn, so we will not get how many are on the entry list or were on the entry list here. There was 39, so 44 withdrawing means there's 38, but still a solid field for Richmond. Let's see. I'm sure you agree that Hamlin should be the favorite heading into this weekend, though, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's by far and away the best at Richmond in the next gen era. So yes, he should be the favorite.
So most books now have it Hamlin, Bell, and then a pretty decent gap to someone like Kyle Larson, William Byron, Joey Logano, getting into those 9, 10, 11 to 1 odds.
Yeah, for sure.
Honestly, I was a bit surprised that Austin Dillon opened at 50 to 1, just because of how good that car was here last year.
I was surprised with that too. He actually opened 60 to 1 in Westgate in Vegas. So I may have sprinkled a little bit there. But I mean, I can't track that because it's available nowhere else except there. So it is what it is.
Yeah, you mentioned Ryan Preece. He's sitting at 50 to 1 on FanDuel as well.
Yeah. Kyle Busch is, if you have Hard Rock, I think it was 40 to 1 at Hard Rock, or at least was earlier today. There's, like I said, Carson Hocevar, I've seen at least 40 out there. There's a lot of interesting medium shot value that I think could be in play. It's tough to say. There's a lot of ways this race could go. A lot of drivers that could be good. The question is, will they be?
You mentioned getting on the. I remember my train of thought now from earlier. You mentioned getting on Ryan Blaney before he breaks out, quote unquote, at this track. Definitely, if you want to bet Ryan Blaney, the time is before practice and qualifying, because he always looks so good, if in at least one, if not both of those. So if you are like Nick and you want to get ahead on Blaney, now is probably the time to bet him heading into the race weekend as opposed to after. Also, one guy that we talked about, another mid-range guy, or mid to lower tier guy, I guess, that we talked about in Iowa a couple of weeks ago. We just had a short flat track, as you said. Brad Keselowski's best car there. Josh Berry, another good guy. That lower tier guy, mid to lower tier guy that should or could have a good race here at Richmond. He has a second place finish here in 2023, driving that 9 car for Hendrick Motorsports. And then last year, the first race, he finished top 10 both stages, ended up finishing 11th at the end of the race, driving for Stewart Haas Racing, and then started third, finished 14th in the fall race. Yeah,
I mean, I don't know who's gonna pop here, but there's so many guys that could, right? And
Right. Yep.
Josh Berry, Ryan Preece, Austin Dillon, Kyle Busch. There's a lot of this mid-tier value that could pop, and it's just who will. That's the hardest part, is predicting who will, because there's a lot that could, and they can't all. I mean, I guess they all could, and then we see a lot of big names suck, but it's just a matter of who will.
Well, it's like you mentioned, like Christopher Bell, Denny Hamlin, obviously the two clear top guys this week. But then we got that next tier of Kyle Larson, Chase Elliott, William Byron, and Joey Logano that should be good, but they could miss it. Then you got Chris Buescher, Brad Keselowski. They're sitting right there. Like Bubba Wallace, they should all have speed. So it is. I definitely think it's Hamlin, Bell, 1-2, but everyone else, it's a lot closer than I think a lot of people realize this weekend.
I really like Bubba's upside this week. I'm looking more into these results. I was talking about Bowman Gray. He finished 5th there. I know the All-Star race or All-Star, he didn't qualify for the All-Star Open or whatever it is, the main race. He had a problem. You know how you do qualifying, you have like a pit road penalty and they cost you 10 seconds or whatever because you do pit stops in your qualifying. He had some kind of penalty in his qualifying, so he started back in his Open race, where you try to qualify for the main. And he got all the way to the front and had some contact right there at the end. But he was one of the fastest in practice for the All-Star race, just in open practice with every driver. I think Bubba Wallace, and he finished 3rd at Martinsville on this tire combination. I think Bubba Wallace
great at Iowa.
Yeah, well, Iowa didn't run this tire combination, but yes. But that was a product of fresh tires and full fuel when everybody was saving and on old tires. So I'm not really worried about that. I'm just talking about this tire combination, the 3 races we've had. He's been a top 5 car in all 3 races.
Yeah, definitely. What were the odds for Bubba's top 10?
They were plus 160 when we recorded the pod. By the time the pod aired and I was able to track it, it was plus 150 was the best for a top 10 finish. Didn't matter. I absolutely would have bet it at plus 150. FanDuel, I guess, got hit pretty hard and is now minus 195. They were plus 150. But he's still plus 130. He's still plus 135 at DraftKings. So, I think that's still the best top 10 odds out there, unless Bet365 or Hard Rock has plus 150 still. I don't have that open, but those were the books that had plus 160 was Bet365 and Hard Rock.
Shout out to Hard Rock for officially suspending me. I can't bet at all there anymore.
R.I.P.
R.I.P. in peace.
Exactly.
Let me see here. But yeah, like I said, a lot of I mean, we didn't even get to Briscoe or anybody like that specifically, that should be good here. Carson Hocevar, he was an 8th place finisher. Michael McDowell's finished 6th the year before. He's been good at high tire wear tracks. Like, I don't think he's going to win the race, but as far as like top 10, top 5 upside, McDowell could get there. It wouldn't be surprising at all.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm looking at top 5 for Bubba Wallace right now, and there's 5-1 at Bet365 and plus 475 at BetMGM. FanDuel, of course, since they got hit hard on Bubba, I guess, from the podcast, they're at plus 190 for a top 5.
Jesus, man, they got killed.
Yeah, they clearly got slammed on the top 10 and on all Bubba markets.
You convinced me quite a bit. I didn't realize Kyle Busch has won here 6 times.
Yep.
I mean, damn. I knew he was good here, but 6 wins, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 second place finishes. Like
this is one of his better tracks.
And yeah, if they get that setup that the 3 had last year, maybe that's what I'm for this week.
I know, man. There's so much, and I like I said, I really like Hocevar, like Preece. You mentioned Barry. JGR is really good here. Is Ty Gibbs going to have a good race here? That's always a question mark. But like we could see him popping. It's gonna be a really interesting race. I think there's a lot of mid-tier value. The question is, who is going to be that mid-tier value? Don't know.
And one thing, let's say we get practice and qualifying on Friday. Practice will be at 4:30 till 5:30 ish. Race doesn't start till 7:30. So how obviously practice it's going to be a data point for us, but should we take any of these practice results with a grain of salt?
I mean, I think you always take shorter flat track practice results with a grain of salt just because you can get traffic, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we're gonna have a 4:30, like you said, practice and a 7:30 race, so it's gonna be even hotter and slicker than it will be at night. But at the same time, you're still gonna have high tire wear. Richmond, whether it's daytime or nighttime, is gonna produce large tire wear. So I think that'll be the overriding factor. So I you can take practice with a bit of a grain of salt, but I think having 30, 40, 50 lap runs in practice is really going to help kind of determine who's doing well and who's doing not. How much does the setup change from heat of the day to cool at night? That's what we don't know.
Anything else from Richmond or for Richmond from you?
I'm trying to look at this like back tier. My cat's going crazy. This back tier, everybody behind the drivers we just named, these Priuses, the Hosevars, etc. Like, I don't really think that many drivers stand out to me once you get past Ty Gibbs. Like,
yeah, a lot of those low tier guys are really bad here.
Well, even once you get to Austin Cindric or Daniel Suarez, they're 100 to 1 or 110 to 1 at various books. And they just, aside from Daniel Suarez in the option tire, primary tire race where he was on that completely different strategy and he took the option tires. I mean, Austin Cindric doesn't have a top 10 finish here. Daniel Suarez, I'm pulling up his data. He has that one top 10 finish until you go back to his Haas or JGR days, which was in a previous generation of car. It's tough to find any value beyond, like I said, once you get down to like Austin Dillon, Ryan Preece, Ty Gibbs. I mean, like if you really want to get fucking wild, Cole Custer.
Mm-hmm.
Like, but even then, that doesn't feel good, But Cole Custer technically has had a good run here in the past. He finished 14th in 2020 in that Haas car. He had an 80.8 driver rating, average running position of 12. Like, really long shot top 10, but I mean, since then, it hasn't been good. It's been 23rd, 22nd, 22nd, and 26th with no driver rating better than 70.3, which, to be fair, was the most recent race in 2022 that he ran for Stewart Haas.
A couple of guys that kind of longer shot. I wish they were longer odds for top 10s, but I think they have upside this week that if I was going to bet a long shot top 10, I can get behind these. And it's the Legacy Motor Club cars of Eric Jones and John Hunter Nemechek. John Hunter Nemechek this year, 14th at Phoenix. He did end up 25th at Martinsville, but then 15th at Iowa. He finished second in his open race at North Wilkesboro. Fourth at Bowman Gray, or eighth. No, he's fourth in the last chance qualifier. And then Eric Jones is Eric Jones. He was 18th at Phoenix after starting fifth. Crashed out of Martinsville, and then Iowa, he was 16th. So they're sitting right now on FanDuel. Eric Jones is plus 950. John Hunter Nemechek is plus 1,200, plus 1,200 for a top 10. If I had to bet some long shots, that's probably who it would be. Maybe like a Zane Smith, I could get there. Maybe a Michael McDowell. Maybe I'm more on Michael McDowell now that I'm looking at this. 16-1 for a top 10 finish. Like I said, he's got something figured out with, or he definitely, the high tire wear tracks he's had where he can manage his tires in the past. I might be on board with maybe a Michael McDowell as a long shot top 10. Again, if I had to. I have not made a single bet this week. Surprisingly for me, I'm not even home. I'm gone. So I'm kind of checked out of NASCAR right now until the weekend. But I think
I'll
if there
tell
was
you who it
with
is.
those
I'll
guys.
tell you who it is for me. It would be Todd Gilliland.
I can support that. You know that.
Todd Gilliland in the Bowman Gray race preseason finished 14th. He started 20th. He qualified his way in. In the All-Star race and Open, he didn't make the main, but how did he do in the Open? He didn't do so great in the Open, but he had a top 10 at Martinsville. So those are the 3 races that use this tire. So maybe a Todd Gilliland. But yeah, I mean, it's tough to say. Just finished 17th at Richmond last year and 21st.
I was gonna say you look at his career at Richmond. He has 4 starts qualifying efforts of 16th or better here. Now, obviously, he only has 1 top 15 finish. It was in 2023. He finished 17th last year. But yeah, I just wish it was just a little bit longer. 13-1, obviously, still long shot odds, but yeah.
Like
Gilliland,
I think I prefer Gilliland to Eric Jones. If Eric Jones is plus 950, I mean,
you'd rather
Todd
have Gilliland
Gilliland.
at 13.
Yeah, I mean,
Now
Todd
the question
Gilliland.
is, would you rather have?
If we just sort by, let me just sort here by driver. So 6 for Jones, 6 for Gilliland. Only DNF was Eric Jones, so that was race 636. I'll remove that race. Average finish in the non-DNF races, 24 for Eric Jones and 20.6 for Todd Gilliland at Richmond in the Next Gen era. Average running position, Todd Gilliland 21.2, Eric Jones 23.8. Right, if you're going to bet Eric Jones plus 950, Todd Gilliland's had the better numbers at Richmond and had the better finish at Martinsville and the equal or better performance in the 2 exhibition races, the All-Star race and the preseason race. I think I'd rather have Todd Gilliland than Eric Jones, and if I had to pick one, and that's because Gilliland's 13 and Eric Jones is 9.5.
So here's a question for you, and the answer can't be both. If you had to pick one of them to bet on, top 10, Todd Gilliland or Zane Smith, both of them at 13-1.
I haven't looked at Zane Smith's data enough yet.
Zane did finish 9th at Phoenix, 16th at Martinsville. He wrecked out of Iowa.
Yeah, again, I'm so much more concerned about higher tire wear. So like Bowman Gray.
12th at Darlington.
Yeah, I'm more worried about short flat, high tire wear.
Right. Right. Yeah, I'm just looking at. I just got the season, the first one I looked at.
Yeah, let's see. I definitely think I prefer Todd Gilliland. Let me check the All-Star race real quick. I know that's going to be lower tire wear just because it was so newly paved, but it's the same tire combination. Zane didn't make the main. Gilliland didn't make the main. They're kind of a wash, but that was lower tire wear. I think I'd give the nod to Todd Gilliland. But like you said, Michael McDowell, 16-1 for a top 10 isn't horrible, I guess. But I think of all of these, like I don't like anything beyond, this Ryan Preece, Austin Dillon, Ty Gibbs tier. But I think if I had to pick something, I'd pick Todd Gilliland top 10.
Yeah, like I said, I haven't bet anything, and I don't really have any desire to. Austin Dillon did open it. I saw 250 earlier in the week for a top 10. He's down to plus 185 on FanDuel. You like that at all? Do you like that at all?
Austin Dillon?
Yeah.
For top 10? I mean, I believe he's still plus 200 or so at Bet365, plus 220 still at Bet365, which is what Stevie gave him out on the podcast. I think you got to take that if you have Bet365 plus 220. He's finished top 10 in 7 of the last 12 Richmond races.
Definitely his best track. And he's had I feel like over the last, 5 years or handful of years, he's had race winning speed twice. And that's not a
Oh yeah.
fluke. He's good here.
I said I was going to tail Stevie on this, and then I didn't. So now I'm going to tail Stevie on this. Austin Dillon, top 10 finish, plus 220 in. I'm going to track it actually right now in the Action Network app.
There we go.
Bet365 or Hard Rock if you have that one. So 220. I'm going to do it full unit, and then just hope I hit one of Bubba or Austin Dillon. Plus 220, top 10.
There we go.
Tailing Stevie from Running Up. Save. And, I'm going to do 0.8 since. No. All right. Well, I'm in. I'm just one unit track.
There we go. All right. Anything else from Richmond?
I was looking at Ricky Stenhouse Jr. too, and he's not been good here lately. Mm-hmm. But many years ago, he was good at Richmond. But that's many years ago. Different car, different team, and lower wear surface. So go ahead.
That car has just been so bad lately.
Yeah,
like they are in a slump of speed right now.
Yeah, they need to
this year where they had decent speed.
Here's the thing. I think Ricky Stenhouse Jr. is not a bad driver, but that team needs feedback from a elite driver to get to where they need to be. Because I don't think Ricky Stenhouse Jr. may be the best at giving feedback, if you know what I mean. I think he's more of a I think he's more of a driver who can drive the car, but not deal with the engineering setup side of stuff as much. So that team has just kind of tailed off as the season has progressed, whereas everybody else is, they have either enough drivers or enough engineers because they're bigger teams. They're not a one-car team to get feedback. And I think that's the biggest problem right now with his situation, as he's not in a multi-car team. I think Ricky Stenhouse Jr., even when he raced for Roush, man, that was when Roush was in their absolute horrible struggle years. I think if you put Ricky Stenhouse Jr., just hypothetically, put him in, I don't know, let's say a Joe Gibbs or a Penske or a Hendrick Motorsports car, he's right there with your Buschers, your Kyle Bushes in terms of the cut line, the Ryan Preeces in terms of the cut line.
I think a good representation of their season is they have the reason that they've declined so much is just comparative. They've stayed the same pretty much since the beginning of the year. Everybody else has gotten better.
Exactly. And again, that's part of being a multi-car team where even if one driver isn't as amazing at feedback, some of the others probably are. Even if one crew chief isn't amazing at making adjustments, some of the others are, and then the bad crew chief can make the copycat adjustments type deal. But if you're just stuck in a one car, one crew chief, one operation spot, and you have no notes to go off of, nothing to improve off of other than your own selves, and if you have let's say a driver that, again, talented, but doesn't maybe give the best feedback or have the best engineering knowledge or things like that, and then you have a crew chief who's just kind of mid, you're in a bad spot.
Yeah. So, all right. Anything else for Richmond from you?
I will say this, just staying on Ricky Stenhouse Jr. His crew chief is Mike Kelly. Pretty sure Mike Kelly was Denny Hamlin's crew chief many years ago, if I remember correctly. Let's see. I'm talking years and years ago, but you would think Mike Kelly would be good, but he's also one of those there's probably a reason he's not Denny Hamlin's crew chief anymore kind of deal. So yeah, it's just I really want to buy into Ricky Stenhouse Jr. at 500 to 1, but the equivalent top 10 odds type deal. But I just can't. That team is not improving.
Yeah, I think
you can kind of write them off everywhere except Daytona, Atlanta, and Talladega.
Mm-hmm. Another guy, speaking of these longer shots, that just hasn't been good here, surprisingly, but this team has had so much speed this year, is AJ Allmendinger. But he is just bad. He is bad here.
Oh, he's horrible.
Has not finished better than 26th here since 2016. Bad.
Yeah.
But
no, he is not good at Richmond.
He did have a decent run of races here back in 2010 through 2014. Top 15 in a lot of those races. But yeah, lately, and especially with this car, he is just absolute dog shit.
Yeah. I'm mistaken. It was Mike Wheeler, not Mike Kelly. Got my mics confused for Denny Hamlin.
There we go.
It's hard to remember, man. We've been watching NASCAR for the better part of 40 years, and there's been so many names and faces that have come and gone, and it's an industry that changes all the time, right? Like, I mean, you think about like a guy like Darian Grubb, how many teams and drivers he's worked with, that kind of stuff. It's hard to remember, especially the crew chief part of things.
Mm-hmm. That is for sure. And
you know, the year that I totally didn't even mean to do this, but because I was looking for the last time Denny Hamlin worked with Mike, and it was Mike Wheeler, which was in 2017. Speaking of Darian Grubb, he was with William Byron then in the 24.
Really? I forgot he was with Byron.
I did too. Huh. I completely forgot he was with Byron. And I was just saying how many teams and drivers he's worked with. I totally forgot he was with Byron.
Yeah,
which is pretty funny.
I probably would have guessed 10 other drivers before I guessed Byron, if you asked me.
Just and like the year before that, Chase Elliott was in the 24 car.
God, time flies.
Yep, we're old, man. We are old.
I know. All right. On to picks to win. You had the ultimate RotoDoc jinx last week, picking Connor Zilisch.
How do we even do that? Like, that just counts as an aborted race. Like, for me, it doesn't go into my average or anything.
Yeah, I gave you an NA for the finish, and then I had SVG, so I get my third win of the year, trying to catch up to you.
That's the best jinx of all time. I mean, we can say that now jokingly, knowing Connor Zilisch is fine.
Right. All right. Who you got for Richmond? Who you picking?
Denny Hamlin.
I had a feeling you were going to.
Actually, I lied. Joey Logano.
Oh. Interesting choice. What's the thought behind that? Other than he's good here.
Look at him on this tire combination.
Mm-hmm.
Great in the All-Star race. Great in the preseason exhibition race. Great at Martinsville earlier this year. You know, won a stage, all that jazz. And has always been really good at Richmond. So, yeah, I think I like Joey Logano. Finished, like I said, 4th at Bowman Gray. If we go to the All-Star race, he finished 2nd in the All-Star race. He won a stage at Martinsville earlier this year. And he's arguably like top 3 or 4 car at Richmond in the next gen era. Just give me Joey Logano.
I like it. Let's see here.
Plus it's redemption from last year, right?
1, 2, 3, 6 straight picks of 9th or better, and 2 wins with both being SVG. So I'm going to go. I kind of want to go. I kind of want to go outside the box though, because all of my picks outside of SVG lately have been kind of outside the box. Originally, I was coming in, I was going to go Austin Dillon, but yeah, I'm going to go. You left me Hamlin. I'm going to go Hamlin.
Yeah.
I need to get to your. You have 4 wins this year. I have 3. I want to get to 4, so I'm going Hamlin.
I mean, Hamlin and SVG are tied for the most wins.
Mm-hmm.
You got Toddy
Hamlin,
up for wins. We'll all be on 4 wins.
There we go. All right, I got Hamlin. You got Logano. Got those now. 36 for 36. I had Chris Buescher last week. Gave me 44 points. I'm happy with that. Joey Logano for you last week ended up with 23. A little bit of a below average race for him there at Watkins Glen. It looks like you already have your pick locked in, as do I, for Richmond.
Yeah, you're on the 3, which is no surprise, Austin Dillon, and I'm on Denny Hamlin.
There we go.
Since I used Joey Logano last week, so I'll use Denny Hamlin now.
Absolutely. So that was easy enough. Point standings. I'm at 632. You're at 583. I did update the owner point standings this week, so that should all be accurate. Yeah, Hamlin's averaging 35.5 points per race, so you could easily, with how good he is at Richmond, beat that for his average. So I'm just hoping for a top 10 finish out of Austin Dillon, and I'll be happy.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
And now DraftKings. So I tweeted out the results of after last week with DraftKings, and it's insane how close this stuff is.
Absolutely crazy.
Yeah, let me get this up here. I'm hoping that my computer is able to handle this. I'm on my backup laptop, and this thing's kind of slow. All right, here we go. All right, so getting back to the results, let me pull up my tweet here quick. Insanely close. Over 23 races this year. You have 12 wins. I have 11 wins. Total fantasy points, you have 4,578.65. I have 4,575.7. We are separated by less than 3 fantasy points over 23 races, which is just nuts because a lot of times we have at least 3 drivers different each week with these lineups. So just craziness. And I am curious to see how you go this week. Right now, this is my first time looking at these salaries. So I'm glad you get to go first, and I can kind of think about it here while you do that.
Yeah, dude, this is a tough one.
Because remember, this is 400 laps, so you definitely have to nail a dominator or two.
Yes, you absolutely have to. And it's really hard to go 3 dominators because then you get into those shit boxes, which is basically everybody below Ty Gibbs, who's 7K. Anybody 6K or below, like 6,900, like Cindric or below, while not a shitbox is in a clear tier below. So even if you take like just a total punt, there's no way you can get to a bunch of like a couple other mid-tier drivers. I mean, maybe if I take Cody Ware, then I average 7,250, which would be like Hosfar and Austin Dillon or something. Or Ty Gibbs and Bubba Wallace, which isn't horrible, but then you're taking Cody Ware, right? So like you can't do like 3 big tier drivers. And I mean, maybe if one of those is Keselowski, maybe you drop a Hamlin, that kind of stuff. But even then, you're it's tough to say. It's tough because I think Keselowski at 9,200. He has so much upside, and I mean, I bet on him to win 25-1. But like, do I want to bet on him at 9,200? I shouldn't say bet, but like put him on my roster at 9,200, or do I want to put Denny Hamlin at 11,000, who's clearly been the dominant car here in the next gen era? There's so many ways you can go with this, but I'm starting with Todd Gilliland. That
I like
opens
that.
everything. That opens everything up for me in terms of like, now I have like a lot of ways to go with this.
Mm-hmm.
I clearly want Bubba Wallace, so I'm going to go with Bubba Wallace.
Insanely cheap price this week, $7,500.
And I trust him more than I trust Gibbs or Hocevar or even Austin Dillon. Just in that overall performance category right now. And this should be a great track for him. And he's been great on this tire. Not that I'm saying I won't take those guys in my lineup, but like if I'm going to pick something, I'm going to pick Bubba Wallace right now. As far as value, track, and tire history, if you will. It's these other cars that like I'm torn between Denny Hamlin,
Christopher
Bell, not so much Kyle Larson, William Byron a little bit, not really Blaney for this format, but like betting where he's really like cheap in the market, potentially, yes. But like Chase Elliott, Joey Logano, and Brad Keselowski, and even Chris Buescher, like I'm fine with any of those drivers. And it's like, what do you value? So I'm going to go Joey Logano just because, he's on that cheaper side of that tier. Obviously, I know at 90.66, I'm going to need a cheaper driver, average remaining salary. So question is, do I go Priest, Dillon, Gibbs, Hocevar, Barry, Kyle Busch? It's tough, man. It's tough. I think I'm going to go.
Even Gibbs at 7,000 is pretty cheap.
I know. And like, then you think about qualifying. I don't know where any of these guys are going to qualify. It's so hard to picture where these guys are going to qualify. Hocevar has had great qualifying efforts. I'd be like, well, yeah, maybe Austin Dillon's not going to qualify great, but he qualified really well here last year. I just don't know. Hocevar always qualifies well. Priest might be like the guy where you're like, okay, maybe he doesn't qualify so well.
Yeah, he typically, if someone's going to struggle out of this group, I think Priest is most likely in qualifying.
I agree with that. But then that only gets me up. Like, let's say I go Priest, and then it doesn't matter if it's Buescher or Keselowski. That only gets me up to a Byron or a Larson, who I had not quite as high on as like Bell or Hamlin.
Exactly, yep.
So it's a little weird. I mean, I could go Elliott. I'm just looking at what my options are here. Yeah, but I don't love the options if I take Elliott. So I think I'm just going to go. Man, I don't know what to do here. Wow. Jeez, dude. I was thinking like, okay, so take down Priest, right? I was looking at like Gillen, Bubba, Logano, then going like Elliott, because I think Elliott's had some incredible results on this tire combination this year. And then either Keselowski or Buescher, doesn't matter, right? Like just looking. I'm not actually doing anything here.
Mm-hmm.
But that leaves me with like 8,000 or 8,200, which is only Josh Berry, and I don't really want. Like, I like Josh Berry, but it's not really what I'm looking for. Dude, this sucks. Okay, take down Elliott and put Kyle Busch.
Okay.
I want to see what happens there. So that leaves me 93.50 average. So I could go. Dang, I can't even go Elliott there. I don't really want to go Keselowski Briscoe. This is brutal, dude. This is brutal. This is absolutely brutal.
It is. This is a tough week. I feel like Richmond pricing is typically up to snuff as far as like a little difficult.
All right, I think I have it.
Okay.
Drop Bubba Wallace.
Interesting.
Give me Chase Elliott. Give me Brad Keselowski. Give me Ty Gibbs.
Interesting.
I feel like between Elliott, Logano, and Keselowski, and possibly even Kyle Busch, I'm going to get Dominator points, and there's a realistic chance Ty Gibbs could too.
All right, final answer?
Yeah, final answer. And I don't love it. I don't love it. I just feel like if you get a guy like an Elliott or a Logano or Keselowski that dominates, I mean, it's a really nice thing to have.
Yeah.
At those price points.
I agree. That's a tough week. Especially,
it's a tough week because there's a lot of. I actually think there's a lot of combinations, which is why it makes it tough. Not because there's so few.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Because I could have gone Hamlin. I could have gone Hamlin and Hamlin and cheaper along with that Logano, Bubba Gilly thing, but then you have to nail Hamlin. Like if Hamlin doesn't dominate, you're toast.
Exactly. Yeah. So we're gonna have quite different lineups this week. The only guy that's going to be the same on both of ours is Logano. That's really good value at 97.
Yeah, I assume you have Austin Dillon.
I'm going Bubba Wallace and Austin
Dillon. Yeah.
Yep.
And it pains me to leave both of them off. Absolutely pains me. But I'm thinking more about Dominator points than I'm thinking about value.
Mm-hmm. I wanted to go Gilly. I was first hitting Gilly when I was messing with it, but I'm actually going to cap save even more and hope to just get a decent run and maybe some place differential points out of Ty Dillon at 5,000 to save some cap here.
Yeah.
I think Chase Briscoe is going to win the poll and give me some Dominator points early. So I'm going to go Chase Briscoe. And now
I think he's gonna qualify as second or third and not dominate, and that would be a total waste, which is why I didn't want that.
And I understand that as well, for sure. I'm betting on Briscoe right now.
You know how much I hate betting on the poll.
That's true. Yep. So then it comes down to Hamlin or Bell for me. I don't know, man. Give me. I'm just gonna go. I'm gonna go Hamlin. I'm gonna call it a day and go Hamlin. It's a coin flip for me, Hamlin or Bell.
Yep.
But yeah, I'm going Hamlin, Briscoe, Logano, Bubba Wallace, Austin Dillon, and Ty Dillon.
Makes sense.
With mine. We got quite different lineups this week. So we'll see if the gap gets any wider than what it's at.
I was just looking at a couple things. I was looking at Ty Dillon versus Cole Custer on this tire. Ty Dillon has actually been better than Cole Custer on this tire. Because I was going to say you could always go up to Cole Custer for $100 and take Bell, but it's not actually going up to Cole Custer doesn't do anything because he's actually been worse than Ty Dillon. So makes sense.
All right. Anything else from you for Richmond before we hop off here?
I think we're good.
All right. Yeah, we got Daytona next week, but first, Saturday night racing at Richmond. Hopefully a good race,
Hope so.
but nothing guaranteed with this car.
Nope.
All right. Hopping off here. Good luck to everybody this week. Enjoy the race. Enjoy Richmond. We'll be back next week to talk about Daytona and the end of the regular season. See you guys.